Okay, before we get started on the retro review for today, I just wanted to say it's raining. Now, usually that would be kind of an annoyance, but it has not rained in probably a couple of months around here, and not any meaningful rain and longer than that. And I have to say that where I live, which is in the coastal plains of Texas, rain is very common. We never have droughts, and the one drought that I can remember wasn't as long as this one. So the idea that you would have brown grass around here was just unthinkable, and it's been pretty bad. But it's raining today, and so it puts everybody in a very good mood, even if it happens to be Labor Day as we're taping this. It may have spoiled a few picnics, but I think that it will lead to greener grasses later. Let's talk about Deep Space Nine coming up after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd. Okay, A and B plots on this. First plot is that Bajor is going to have a power generation station put on one of the moons around Bajor, which is going to provide power and prosperity for hundreds of thousands of people. But in order to do so, the inhabitants of this moon have to be evacuated because the power plant will create toxic gas that will make it unlivable. And there's one holdout. Of course, this is an old saw of TV programs that have a situation where a dam is going to break or something else is going to happen, and everybody has to move out, and there's one person that just won't leave, and there's no way that you can get them to. And in the B story, Jake and Nog have discovered that there is a supply of some kind of Cardassian food that Quark doesn't want around. And so they offer to take it off his hands and decide to trade it back and forth until they have something that could get them some latinum. And it's an interesting story, but just something so you could involve the rest of the cast, because this story really is about Kira and about the guest star of the week, who's one of the biggest stars that's been on Deep Space Nine, which is Brian Keith. Now, Brian Keith, in case you don't know, if you ever saw Hardcastle and McCormick, he was Hardcastle. If you ever saw Family Affair, he was Uncle Bill. If you ever saw The Parent Trap, the original version with Haley Mills, he played the father. He was in stage performances. He was on supporting actor in countless movies. He'd been in a number of westerns. He's been on just about every TV show there is. And all of this made a very experienced and very talented actor. Brian Keith was not your usual kind of learn all the lines and say all the lines kind of actor. He was not a method actor either. He would just come in, he would look over the script, and he'd say, I know what I'm going to do. And he would be somewhere within the bounds of what the character was supposed to be, but always gave it something extra that made him just a very different kind of actor, and one perfect for the part that he's playing on this episode. He would die 4 years later. He had lung cancer, probably in the early stages of it when this was filmed, and died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Some people think it was suicide. Others believe that he did have a gun collection, and he was possibly careless while he was cleaning one and shot himself. But he did not have long to live, even at the time that this particular show was done. He did all kinds of TV shows. He did voiceover stuff. I think his last thing he did was for Duckman, if you remember that. So this is Brian Keith, and we have an opportunity not only to see more about Kira, her revolutionary days, the reason that a completely under-equipped Bajoran underground was able to defeat the much better equipped Cardassians. They were just stubborn. They were persistent. They would not give up. And that was what the character of Brian Keith was in here. And she develops quite a fondness for him, because he's not just the old irascible guy, I'm not going to leave my land, but he worked her into making his story her story. And the subtlety of the acting, the real lovability of the character came out, and all of the other stuff around was just kind of decoration. And I think he absolutely made this episode, and it's one of the best bits of casting that I've seen on many a show. So Brian Keith was probably the biggest star to appear, or biggest star at the time to appear on Deep Space Nine. It's possible there are other bigger stars that became bigger after they'd been on this show, but he had the majority of his career before this, and it was very noticeable that he was able to take this entire episode and make it his own, and you believed it. And there's not better acting than that. So that's what I have to say about this. This is the one that makes the first season for me. And whether you care about Kira, whether you care about Deep Space Nine, whether you care about what a self-stealing stem bolt is, you'll want to be there just for Brian Keith's performance, just as someone who you probably knew, someone who was irascible but lovable at the same time. There are stories replete of people like this, and the reason that they are as beloved as they are. He showed how that works. So I'd like to know what you think about this. Please put it in the comments below. And of course, if you have not subscribed, please subscribe and click a like button too. That'll all help us. So our retro reviews continue tomorrow with Star Trek: The Original Series. And then on Friday, we have a twofer for you. We will have, of course, the review of Babylon 5 and the first episode in the new season of Lower Decks. So we hope that you'll join us for that. And until then, don't go far.